Watch shopping in Singapore in 2025. Is it worth it? How to go about it? And finally, what I purchased. One of the most hottest summer watches for nearly 32% of the list price. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about watch shopping in Singapore in this non-sponsored, self-researched video. So stick around. You join me in Singapore, supposedly the top 5 markets where you can buy a wristwatch for the lowest price possible. Spoiler alert, the watch I purchased was available for its all-time lowest price in Singapore. Yes, even cheaper than Japan, and there's a reason why, which you will see later in the video. I've been flying into Singapore for a long time now, but on this occasion, I'm here on a longer term as a tourist. So I was able to properly do my research and watch shopping. Now, not only is Singapore home to several micro-brand watches, but you'll find that most mainstream and luxury brand watchmakers have their own boutiques as well as dealer partners in Singapore. So watch buying here is a very exciting proposition. Now, I'm first going to talk about buying a mainstream watch, watches which usually cost under $1,000. And then I'll talk a little bit about buying a luxury watch here in Singapore to how to go about it. Now, for the mainstream brands, first off, try and shortlist the watches on your wish list, even before you fly into Singapore. This will save you a lot of time, especially if you're on a tight holiday schedule with your family. Once you've done that, I would recommend using a platform like Lazada or Shopee, which are online marketplaces in Singapore with more competitive prices than Amazon 9 out of 10 times. Personally, I prefer using Lazada even when I'm not buying a watch, and I've gotten excellent pieces of aircraft scale models and Lego kits from this website shipped to my hotel address in Singapore. I have never had any issues with them. Once you have identified the watch that you want and at a price point that you feel makes for a good deal, don't buy it off Lazada just yet. Most of the sellers on this platform have a physical store in Singapore City where you can visit, try on the watch, verify its authenticity before making the purchase. Now, for me personally, I prefer going to a store, interacting with actual people, trying on the watch before putting my money down. Are you like me? Now, even if I'm not getting the cheapest deal, I still prefer going to a store, seeing my watch actually in front of me or the watch box before making a purchase, and this is what I would recommend you to do as well. I find that this, despite not being the cheapest deal on a watch, gives a lot of peace of mind after your watch buying process, which is really worth it. You're not second guessing after you receive the watch sight unseen of, oh, why has it broken down? Was it broken before it was shipped, or what did I do something wrong? So yeah, like I said, plenty of peace of mind. I feel the peace of mind is worth the slightly extra premium that you pay to actually go and see a watch in a store rather than just buying it off online. So again, this is what I would recommend you to do as well. Okay, so you've found your watch, you found your seller in Singapore who has a physical store. Next up, get their contact details from Google and also have a look at their Google reviews. Most sellers are very communicative on WhatsApp, and you could text them beforehand inquiring about the watch you are interested in. I would say most of your watch purchase is done by this point. When D-Day arrives, ensure you carry your passport with you to the store and finalize your purchase. Before making the payment, mention that you are a tourist and present your passport so that the seller can record a GST invoice. On your departure from Singapore, make sure you head to the GST refund counter in the airport, where you will be refunded 7% of the price you paid in tax refund. And now enjoy your watch. The process I've mentioned works very well for mainstream watches from brands like Citizen, Seiko, Casio, and even Tissot sometimes. For the luxury brands, I have a slightly different process. In Singapore, most luxury brands have their own boutiques, and there are also multi-brand dealers like Gassang, Cortina, and Watches of Switzerland. Again, similar to Japan, the salespeople are very welcoming, they're very friendly, And they're also very communicative on WhatsApp or text. So it is easy to have a rough idea of what to expect even before you walk into a store if you're well prepared. Now, what I find is that the brand-owned boutiques are not too generous with their discounts as compared to the multi-brand watch outlets like Gassam Watches of Switzerland or Cortina for that instance. So definitely have an idea of what you want and then contact both the boutiques and the dealers and be shameless in asking for discounts. Most of the times you'll be surprised with what the answer is, and you'll be surprised that if you hadn't asked for anything, you probably wouldn't have received a discount. So be absolutely shameless in asking for a discount. What you'll find is that the watch dealers, the multi-brand outlets, generally have a 5 to 15% discount on most watches most of the time. Again, this varies depending on the watch, how popular it is, how new it is, and how fast moving it is. And yes, in your calculation, expect a further 7% refund on the GST that you pay when you exit Singapore through the airport. Now, if you are planning to visit Japan around the same time, chances are that luxury watches are a further 10 to 15% cheaper in Japan as they are in Singapore. So do keep that in mind. Now, this brings me to my watch purchase and how much I saved. Ready? Excuse the tada, but say hello to my new 37mm Citizen Suyosa NJ0200-50L, or as I like to call it, the poor man's Tiffany Blue Rolex Oyster Perpetual. I've been a fan of the Citizen Suyosa since the launch, but unfortunately for me, and a problem a lot of us experienced, thankfully, the original Suyosa was a bit too large for my smallish wrist. So launched in February 2025, February this year, this is the 37mm well-fitting Suyosa, if I can call it that, launched in 3 colors, blue being one of them and the one that I like the most. So I'm thankful that a lot of us experienced this problem for Citizen to actually go and make a smaller version of the Suyosa. Now in Japan, Citizen does not officially sell the 37mm Suyosa since it's classified as an international model, and even the standard 40mm Suyosa is not sold in all colors which are available globally because weirdly Citizen calls it global models not meant for the domestic market of Japan. So if you wanted to buy something like the 37mm Suyosa in Japan, you would have to buy it off a third-party website like Amazon, which, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not comfortable doing for a watch like a Citizen. Maybe a China-made watch, sure, but something under the $100, $150 I would consider Amazon, but I wouldn't consider Amazon for anything beyond that. That's just my personal preference. So yes, I would have had to purchase this watch off Amazon in Japan, where I'm not comfortable purchasing. And secondly, I bought this watch in Singapore for a price which is much, much lower than what Amazon Japan lists the 37mm Suyosa as. So it worked out well in my favor. In Singapore, I used the website Lazada, as I mentioned. I found a seller called the R Boutique, which also had a store in Singapore with excellent Google reviews. My interaction with the store was great, amazing customer service and prompt responses, and I was happy to see there were some used luxury watches also on sale. The seller also sells some premium watches from the Omega family as brand new watches at a substantial discount. You might want to check that out as well. Predominantly though, it was Japanese brands, and I also had the opportunity to try out some Orient watches, which was also on my consideration list. Finally though, it was the Tiffany Blue 37mm Suyosa which I fancied the most, and I was happy with the price I paid as well. On Citizen Singapore's website, this watch is listed at 540 Singapore dollars, or about 425 US dollars. I was able to get it for 399 Singapore dollars, or about 310 US dollars. In addition, I will be getting back 7% as refund on tax paid. So that brings down the price to 371 Singapore dollars, or about 290 US dollars, which is a hefty 32% discount from the manufacturer listed price and much cheaper than what Amazon Japan lists this watch for. Now, obviously, there will be another separate video about my experience with the new 37mm Suyosa. Especially, I want to cover some of the negative aspects of this watch, which was mentioned in a lot of other YouTube videos that I watched prior to buying the watch. So if you haven't done so already, do consider subscribing to this channel, as I've already started working on that video. Now, I did see this watch for slightly cheaper prices on other sellers on Lazada, but those sellers did not have a physical store for me to visit and make a physical purchase. So as I mentioned, that was not something I was comfortable with. I'm happy paying the slightly extra premium for the peace of mind that I get in confirming my watch before I put my money down. So that's what I did. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope I was able to be of some assistance to you before your Singapore trip, and hopefully give you a rough idea of how much you could save on a watch in Singapore, whether it makes more sense to buy it in Singapore or some other country, or maybe even online. Be a great friend. Share this video with your buddies who are planning their Singapore trip very soon. Maybe you could even ask them to get you your watch. Let me know what you're planning to get in the comments below. Happy shopping. Thank you for watching.